Hello.
Hello.
It's Sunday. It's the new era,
Yeah.
the Trumpian dystopia.
Probably cheer you up, hopefully.
Yes, there was a little bit of a thread of a post-Trump
Yeah.
world through this session. For the people who are following my hi-fi journey, which I don't think anybody is, but the big difference for this session is we had a new cartridge, a Denon DL110, which is a moving coil, which sounded great, and the KEF 105.2 speakers have re-entered
Which is
the session.
good news as far as I'm concerned.
These are speakers that were my dad's. They're from 1979, and they used to be the speakers that we used in the other house. And I thought they were too big for the room, but I was just on the point of being about to sell them, and I just plugged them in to check they were still working, and they just sounded absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
So the journey continues.
Old technology is best.
It is. So yeah, there's a new quad power amp being ordered. So that'll be the talk of the next session. Anyway, back to the music. It's all about the music. I think last video I was talking about the David Mancuso. The what's the name of that book?
Can't remember.
The basically the New York dance scene, and a great book that I've been reading, which is kind of tracing the roots and the history. And in the book there are playlists from all the DJs of the time, and one of the tunes, which I know anyway, but I picked up very cheaply, was a Diana Ross tune, and it's the tune Love Hangover, and that was how we auditioned the speakers today, and it sounded phenomenal.
Very good.
Great tune.
Great tune.
Yeah.
Normally end a session with Barry White rather than Barry White rather than starting one, but this is
Barry
from
Wright.
Barry White. Barry White. This is from Songs of Someone You Love. I think this is chest on the front, which is a bit scary, actually, if it is. Actually,
Nice rug.
Hopefully it's a fur coat, actually, rather than his chest. And played I'm in Ecstasy, really lay down next to me, which is kind of great. Barry White's just great, really.
Yeah.
Great arrangements.
But a slightly later
Yeah,
period.
slightly later.
So
beyond,
no Gene Page.
Beyond Gene Page, yeah.
But still a very recognisable string kind of, what would it be? String signature
Yeah,
sounds.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Carrying on with our sort of, I guess, New York banger period. This looks rather boring to show, actually. It's just a white 12-inch, but it's a version of the OJ's I Love Music, and I think it's actually the Danny Krivit re-edit. It's a sort of 6-minute 22-second version of the Philly classic that has a really nice, some lovely guitar work, actually, some great BVs, and it just sounded great.
And from that went to Johnny Hammond record, which is kind of from a period that's a bit kind of neglected. It's his late period on Milestone, after he worked with the Mizell brothers. And this is from an album called Don't Let the System Get You Down, which is... Do
you think we all need to
play the title track of that? It's good. Nice, really nice track, actually, very well produced. Great bass playing from Byron Miller. And some fancy drumming from Ndugu Chancellor, who pops up again later on in the session.
Yeah,
as well.
And as you pointed out, this was the George Duke rhythm section.
Yeah, pretty much so.
But a rare vocal from Johnny Hammond.
Yeah, sounding all right, actually.
I'd never heard it before.
Yeah.
It's great.
Nice record.
Yeah. Something that I may have shown this album before, I can't remember, but Charles Erland and...
From the Bangers to the Burner.
Yeah, we sort of kind of got into a bit of a Hammond-led sort of jazz soul groove here. We listened to a track called Van Jay. This is an amazing, great album. It's a real period of transition, I think, and just jazz getting very groovy. But an amazing band: Freddie Hubbard, Joe Henderson, Eddie Henderson, Patrick Gleason, Harvey Mason. Great great instrumental work out with some firing solos from Freddie Hubbard, Joe Henderson, and then Charles Erland himself on the organ.
Around that time, he did the soundtrack for the Dynamite Brothers, which has got Patrick Gleason and most of the Warren Marandishi on, which is a really good record. Keeping in the same kind of period, Lenny White, Big City, played the title track, which has all of Brian Auger's Oblivion Express on as well, actually. Obviously, Brian Auger, UK keyboard player, mostly an organist and American rhythm section. Just kind of classic mid to late 70s funk, really.
Yeah, and keeping with the drummer-led sort of fusion, we had a track from Tony Williams's Fear of Flying. I think Derek showed this recently and it kind of got me listening to it again. We listened to the track called Hip Skip, and that, I mean, this is kind of quite a varied album. Goes from sort of kind of quite jazz funk stuff to Cecil Taylor and Tony Williams doing a duet together, which isn't funky at all, but it's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
But this had the most amazing rhythm section of Paul Jackson and Tony Williams on bass and drums, and also Jan Hammer, George Benson, Michael Brecker. So, yeah, sort of late 70s, I think 70, 79. And obviously the powerhouse drumming of Tony Williams.
Thinking of drummers, really, I don't know, started thinking of Jeff Buccaro, and well, I think he was a teenager when this record was made, or very, very young. Katie Lyde, Steely Dan, classic record, played Your Gold Teeth 2 off there, which is great understated drumming, actually. I mean, it's amazing how you could always put out a Steely Dan record and play and it always sounds good.
Always sounds good. I noticed Michael McDonald on the back there.
Yeah.
Indeed. That then got me pulling out this, which is something, I think my only record purchase of the year so far, and this was because I heard a track on Norman Jay, who's quite a sort of, well, I don't know if he's famous exactly, he's certainly a notorious DJ on the...
Why nominated for an MBE?
You nominated him for an MBE and he got it.
He got it.
He's Norman J. MBE now. And this is Michael McDonald's Motown 2. He did 2 albums of Motown covers. I'd never heard this before. And we listened to a track that featured Stevie Wonder. I Was Made to Love Her.
Yeah.
Sounded fantastic, actually. Yeah, sort of... I think this is sort of 90s album. Quite rare on, maybe it's even 2000s.
2000s, yeah.
Yeah. It is 2004 to be precise. Never heard it. Fantastic harmonica work from Stevie and great vocals from Michael McDonald. So, good to hear.
Yeah. From Stevie to Stevie.
Yeah, we were joining the dots seamlessly here,
Yeah, we were. Actually, we fell past a bit later on. But and... Well, again, don't have to say anything about fulfilling this classic record.
Apart from why is there a corner missing off the album?
The corner is not a cutout. My cat actually pooed on the corner, so I had to cut the corner off. This was 30, 40 years ago, that's what I have to say. And played You Haven't Done Nothing.
Yeah.
Actually, great record. I mean, that run of Stevie records was just peerless. Really.
Absolutely.
Absolutely peerless.
So at this point, it was the traditional break for some sheep's cheese and refilling the wine.
Yeah.
And then we returned with something completely different, which is this album, The Comet Is Coming. This is the collaboration of Shabaka Hutchins, who is a sax player, actually plays a number of different instruments, one of the kind of most interesting musicians on the jazz scene in the UK, and his collaboration was Soccer 66, who were kind of an electronic duo, and a really great sounding album. We listened to the 3rd track on side 2, which is called Slam Dunk Down in a Black Hole, which I think is great. I mean, John was pointing out that there's sometimes sort of amazing kind of sounds going on, but not so much kind of musical content, which I think is a fair comment. But I really like this album. I think some people... I've not seen anyone else show it. It's definitely worth a listen. Comet Is Coming.
But definitely, he's one of the most interesting
musicians
around. Actually, I don't know what it was that reminded me of this CD, which is by Jonas Hellborg, and it's called The Word. And it came out on Axiom, which was Bill Laswell's label that he had distributed by Ireland. And this is a weird lineup with Jonas Hellborg on acoustic bass guitar and Tony Williams very, very heavily featured on drums. Kind of hitting out breakbeats almost, really. And the Soldier String Quartet. And it's a track called Miklagard I played off here as well. I always wanted to get the vinyl of this, but it's unbelievably expensive. Yeah, I mean, very interesting. He put out a lot of good stuff out on Axiom as well. It was kind of real kind of golden period for him, I think. Yeah, kind of very hard to describe, actually. Sounds kind of almost kind of slightly Middle Eastern sounding. But yeah, very unusual.
Definitely.
Unusual lineup.
It heralded a sort of kind of quite a bit of strings in the next few selections. And my response to that was a track from Kenny Burrell's Guitar Forms. In fact, it was the track called, I think it was called Loey, or it was Lotus Land. I can't remember which track it was. But anyway, this is a beautiful, beautiful album. A lot of kind of Gil Evans arrangements on this album, and amazing band with Ron Carter and Elvin Jones in the rhythm section. Kind of just showcasing the range of Kenny Burrell's guitar prowess, but very kind of complementary musical accompaniment, and just this amazing kind of tension in the Gil Evans arrangement, and the sort of the sound stage, the wideness of the sounds and the dynamics was amazing on this album.
Also worth checking out Individualism, Gil Evans, from the same time, recorded almost at the same time, I think. So from Gil to one of his students, really, and one of his chosen followers, I guess, which is Maria Schneider, who we talked about a bit in the last session, was when we were talking about David Bowie.
Yeah.
And this is from her record Concert in the Garden, which was one of the which is where she set up Artist Share, which is a crowd-funded. She was one of the first people on Artist Share, which is a crowd-funded platform. Played the track called Concert in the Garden itself, which featured Ben Monder on guitar and Frank Kimbrough on piano. Kind of, you can tell the kind of, obviously the influence of Gil's massive on her. She was his kind of assistant and transcribed a lot of his stuff before. Great. I've got all of her stuff, actually. I think she's a real unusual talent.
I've got none of her stuff. I'd like to have some.
It's very, very good.
Yeah. Not entirely sure what the connection was.
I think the mood of it.
It was the mood and kind of great composition was why we decided to listen to Weather Report's first album, just simply titled Weather Report. And this is the lineup with Alphonse Mouzon, Miroslav Vitus, Airto, Wayne Shorter and Joe Zawinul. Absolutely worth revisiting. I mean, I just think, Weather Reports seem to be popping up regularly in these sessions because there's so much kind of diverse, great music. And we listened to the track called Orange Lady. It sounded really good.
And from that, we went to more Weather Report. So I think which is either the third or fourth record. I can never quite remember which one it was. But it's a lineup with Alfonso Johnson on bass, and for this record with Ndugu making his second appearance of the evening, and played the track Lusitanos, which has got some great kind of wah-wah bass playing. Actually.
Very nice.
Another typical Weather Report, actually. Nice tenor playing from.
And you reckon that Tonto
features Tonto, which was the kind of. I'm pretty sure that was a system that was invented by
Tonto's Expanding Headband, who then featured here, and the album original copy here, it's really great, Zero Time, and we listened to Jet Sex, and it sounded phenomenal, actually. Amazing kind of sounds travelling between the speakers, just really, God, it must have sounded so weird and whenever it came out. But obviously these were the guys who also collaborated on that amazing run of Stevie albums that John was talking about earlier on. Malcolm Cecil, I think, also went on to produce Steve Hillage at some stage.
That's right. Yeah, was it Margaloof was the other guy?
Yes.
Yeah. And from one kind of sonic soundscape to another one. Really went for AMM, which is very different to Tonto, but then again had an amazing kind of sound to it. And this is the my original copy of AMM Music, which came out on Elektra in, we think, 1968 or 69, and played a little bit of Later during a flaming Riviera sunset. This is supposed to be a mono copy, but it didn't sound mono to...
Didn't.
Yeah.
And we both have Lou Gare stories.
Both have Lou Gare stories, one which won't be repeated.
Okay.
Involved my girlfriend at the time, appearing naked but in a kitchen by accident, not realising he was sitting in there. And Mark's old house.
Yes. I think we had another break then. I think 'cause we've been listening to some quite long tracks.
Yes, we
possibly.
have, yeah.
And we came back with the Rhino pressing of Love's Forever Changes, and obviously the classic track Alone Again, or which sounded fantastic. Just doesn't sound like anything else, actually. And you were talking about having seen them at Glastonbury.
Well, yeah, it was just Arthur Lee at Glastonbury doing. It didn't bode very well. Doing a reconstruction of the whole album, basically, and it was kind of perfect, which was really strange. None of the, apart from him, there was I don't think any of the original Love group in it, but it just sounded identical to the record, which was quite strange, really. I don't know. Thinking of the same kind of time, I guess. Actually, although this was later, just went and played Cold Blue Steel and what's it called? Sweet Fire off For the Roses, Joni Mitchell's fourth album, I think, as well, which has always been one of my absolute favourite. I think massively kind of underrated. In the Shadow, this record, really, as well. Yeah. Still my original copy from when I first bought it. It sounded fantastic.
Really did. Possibly the best sounding record of the entire session.
Yeah.
It really did sound amazing.
So when she started getting a bit more of a slightly kind of jazzy influence on the stuff.
Tom Scott, Russ Kunkel, Wilton Felder, James Burton on Elvis's guitarist on guitar. There's a programme on Radio 4 where they sort of shine a spotlight on a particular artist and a particular album, and that artist, if they're still around, comes and performs aspects and does a Q&A. And I was listening to Graham Nash's Songs for Beginners earlier in the year, and just got me wanting to go back and have another listen. Obviously, Graham Nash also was briefly Joni's boyfriend.
Yeah.
And actually this album has quite a few tracks, I think, lamenting their breakup. And we listened to a track called I Used to Be a King that featured some phenomenal pedal steel guitar playing from Jerry Garcia.
I think most people were either Joni's boyfriend or wanted to be.
Right.
During that time.
Apparently this was Jerry Garcia's first recorded pedal steel guitar work. And actually, Graham Nash told the story that the first take, he did it and Jerry wanted to play it again, and Graham just said, no, let's use that one. It sounded fantastic.
And then he went on to play on New Riders of the Purple Sage.
That's right.
This is an artist called Tom Jans, who I didn't really know much about until fairly recently when I read, I think it was an interview with Tom Waits, and he was just saying what an amazing artist he was. And this, again, is kind of late 70s. He's kind of in that, almost in a, how to describe what kind of sounds like a bit. It's a bit in that kind of Boz Scaggs, but a bit more folky. And this is from an album called The Eyes of an Only Child, and I played the track called Struggle in Darkness. Great production, usual amazing lineup of musicians on the record as well. Yeah.
I think we should just need, if you turn that round, John.
Yeah.
So they can see that. And I think there's something about the hairstyle.
Oh, right, the hairstyle. That's what did it. Could easily be.
But actually, it wasn't just the hair. This is Terry Reid's, what's it called? Seed of Memory.
Yeah.
Which I know we're just massive Terry Reid fans here. There was something that kind of made sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, just I haven't got this on vinyl, but it's a wonderful record, and the track Seed of Memory.
In fact, it's quite good to have it on CD because you haven't got a huge picture of him with that hairstyle. That's the only downside of it. Then I had a very weird experience before coming here. I couldn't find any of my Gil Scott-Heron records on vinyl, which is very, they seem to have either been misfiled or disappeared. But I was determined to play Winter in America, because it just seems like a song that I've been hearing a lot recently, actually. It just seems to slightly sum up a lot of people's moods, I think. And I played it off this compilation actually called Glory, which covers both his Strata East period and also his later Arista period. Anyway, Gil Scott-Heron.
Sort of seemed to capture the spirit of shock.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, and kind of sadness, I think, as well. So yeah, Gil Scott-Heron, brilliant artist. This is from the album called Winter in America originally.
But I tell you why I bet he's just because he could be filed under G, S or
I think
H.
it could easily be, but they've all gone
could be
somewhere.
in soul or jazz.
They've all gone somewhere. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I couldn't find my Gil Scott-Heron earlier on. I think we were just going with the mood actually, and it's a rather melancholy mood, which I think is also well represented in the return of the Durruti column. Vinnie Riley, Factory, what's his name, Martin Hannett on the production. Well, the production is pretty minimal, I have to say. Wonderful guitar playing and compositions. And this is the album cover that has the sandpaper effect, so you kind of want to make sure you've got a plastic sleeve, otherwise it scrapes all the albums that it nestles next to on your shelves. Yeah, that was a first appearance from Vinnie Riley.
For no apparent reason, I suddenly felt the need to rock out after that.
You did?
I did, and we went for Neil Young from Love and Only Love, and I think probably the spirit of that was partly behind it as well. Ragged Glory, Neil Young, Crazy Horse. It's Neil Young and Crazy Horse, really.
Yeah.
That's all you can say.
Yeah. I cannot work out what the connection was apart from the fact that we might have started talking about this.
Yeah.
Which is a Christmas present from John to me. Uncompromising Expression, an amazing book about the Blue Note record label that, as well as being a kind of beautiful kind of coffee table selection of the amazing photos and album covers, also has lots of really great written content and reviews of lots of albums, and a highly recommended, great book.
And through a slightly bizarre Amazon cock-up, as well as getting a copy from Mark, I got a copy as well.
At no extra charge.
No extra charge, so we both got a copy of the same book, which is great.
And one of the albums that they talk about in the book, which I have, is the Song for My Father, Horace Silver Quintet. And we actually, although it does feature kind of Joe Henderson and who's on the trumpet? Junior Cook's the tenor player. I think it's Blue Mitchell. Yeah, but actually we listened to a lovely trio version of a track called Lonely Woman, which was very beautiful.
Different to the Ornette Coleman on Lonely Woman.
Right. Yeah.
From there, we started going through a Blue Note period, actually. A mini period.
A very mini one.
And I've gone on about Duke Pearson before on sessions, and went for track off Sweet Honeybee, which is a track called After the Rain, which is often mentioned as being one of his best compositions. Another amazing band, Freddie Hubbard, James Spaulding, Joe Henderson again, Duke Pearson, Ron Carter and Mickey Roker.
And your original Blue Note?
This is original Blue Note mono pressing of Sweet Honeybee. They've lost the master tapes to this one, so there'll never be a kind of audiophile issue of it again. That's his wife in the cover.
Yeah. Just getting into some beautiful jazz piano work, and I played the version of The Shadow of Your Smile from Bill Evans in his album Further Conversations with Myself, which basically features Bill Evans playing with Bill Evans. It's kind of quite strange at times. But, again, they are kind of dialogues and conversations and sort of starting one place and going somewhere completely different. This is on the Verve label, picked up fairly recently from a record fair.
I've got the other one, actually, the first one of the two. From there, I stayed with Blue Note. Well, I've just done an upgrade got a new copy of Search for a New Land, classic Lee Morgan, reading a really good book called Delightfully about Lee Morgan at the moment. Played title track, great band again. Wayne Shorter, Grant Green, Herbie Hancock, Reggie Workman, and Billy Higgins. And this is kind of when he started moving away from hard bop and more into a kind of modal area. And yeah, interesting stuff. Good period. One of my favourite periods of Blue Note, actually, when that kind of change was taking place, really.
Not quite sure how we ended up with Harold Budd and the album Lovely Thunder and the track Flowered Knife Shadow. Just got into a very ambient mood for a little period. Yeah, quite very influential on Eno, I believe.
They were mutually.
And
did a great record together called The Pearl, which is beautiful.
That's it. I should say, although you probably can't hear it, we are listening to the new Brian Eno, is it called Reflection CD, which is just a 150-minute piece that I think is he's using that kind of generative software.
Yeah.
So it kind of every time it's played, it sounds slightly different. I believe there's an app with this as well.
Where you can generate your own stuff.
Yeah.
Staying kind of ambient-y, but a bit more, I suppose, more improvised as well, actually. Fennesz, from the Touch label. This is an EP called 7 Stars. Played the track called Liminal off there as well. Yeah, very keen on Fennesz. Actually, saw him live a couple of years ago, and made your trousers flap, which is quite, which I haven't had.
What kind of trousers were you wearing?
Just wearing normal trousers.
Not flares.
Where he just kind of hits certain kind of frequencies that do all kind of very strange things. So
Wow.
actually, it was extraordinary. No, it weren't even flares. They were just still flapping away.
Again, we were getting into sort of just chilling really for this last period, and this is a track by Cootie Man, who I know very little about, except I think he's from somewhere in Scandinavia, and we listened to a track called 6 AM, and it sort of sounds a bit like something you might listen to at 6 AM, and and sounds a bit like this looks.
Yep. Did I go there? I must have gone there. Don't remember. Oh, right. Looks like next record I played was off Eric Dolphin's.
No, I think you would have done.
Yes, that's right.
Because it was quite an experimental track.
This is off Eric Dolphin's Iron Man, which was one of 2 records that he made just before he made Out to Lunch, with different kind of lineups, including Richard Davis, Woody Shaw, Bobby Hutcherson. 2 great records. One was called Iron Man, the other one was called under a number of different names, but also called the Memorial Album, and played Come Sunday, which is a version of an Ellerton tune, which is just with him and Richard Davis playing bowed stuff. Both of these records are great. They're very, I don't know what happened, they were released on lots of different labels and under different titles, but they were both really classic. This is one that came out on Celluloid. Yeah.
Ah, I'd not seen that cover before.
Yeah, classics, both of them.
Again, sort of slightly in the Cootie Man vibe. I think I've shown this before, came out last year. Mark Pritchard. We listened to a track called Where Do They Go, the Butterflies? John made a slightly facetious comment about hipsters and analog keyboards at this point, which I have to say has a little bit of mileage. But there's some nice tracks on this. I don't think it quite lives up to the beautiful gatefold presentation of the album. But again, yes, where's the content gone?
Yeah, I'm not sure whether we'll be listening to this record in 30 years' time.
No.
Actually.
But the record we will be listening to is...
Well, hopefully is this. That's right. Yeah, played that. I mean, this is, I think, his first studio record for Impulse, actually. One just called Coltrane, and played, well, what I played, actually. Played Soul Eyes, which is a great Marl Waldron composition, which has been recorded by lots and lots of different people as well. Actually, have you ever played? Yeah, I played Marl Waldron at a session before. So yeah, classic Coltrane quartet, Elvin, Jimmy Garrison, McCoy Tyner. Sounded great.
We were sort of deep in conversation at this point, and I had subliminally, we hadn't even talked about what that track
that's
was.
right, actually.
But without even having a conversation, I just naturally pulled out another John Coltrane album, the Ballads album, Which track did we listen to? I think we listened to You Don't Know What Love Is.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Recorded almost at the same time. I think,
Yeah.
it's that one as well. Also very interesting to hear was the next record I pulled out as well was another Rudy Van Gelder on Impulse, and just the soundstage was so similar on all three records as well. This is Yusef Lateef, and this is off his album A Flat, G Flat and C, which as you can tell from the title is basically about different versions of blues. Nice band with Hugh Lawson on piano, Reggie Workman on bass and Roy Brooks on drums, and I played Nile Valley Blues off there, which is a kind of a flute piece with I mean, I don't think Yusef Lateef made a bad record actually. All of them are absolute classics, really.
And John had been talking about how he'd re-watched the film Round Midnight, which I remember seeing back in 1986, and how good it was actually.
Yeah, it's great.
I guess it's a Herbie album, really, isn't it? It's produced by Herbie.
Yeah.
It's got tracks by Herbie, but it also features
Dexter Gordon.
Dexter
obviously.
Gordon, of course. But I mean, we listened to a version of Round Midnight, which also has Bobby McFerrin doing the lead melody on voice, and it has Tony Williams on drums, Ron Carter on bass, and Herbie on piano, which is quite a good lineup, really.
I think there was some weird stuff going on about record label who got the rights to it around that time actually, because there's another, I think it's an album on Blue Note, which is called The Other Side of Round Midnight, which has some of the other tracks on it. I think so anyway. And then my last track was from Bill Frisell's All We're Saying, which is his version of John Lennon songs.
Across the Universe.
Played Across the Universe off there.
Lovely.
Band with Greg Leese, fantastic guitar player, Jenny Scheinman on violin, Tony Sher on bass, and Kenny Wollison on drums. Yeah, kind of 2-3 albums ago this was, but I haven't played it for a long time. It sounded really good.
And that was it, folks.
That was it.
We've clocked in at, bloody hell, 32 minutes.
That's not, at least we're still running. I haven't cut the end off this time.
Good. Well, thank you very much.
Best wishes to everybody.
Yes, hang in there, everybody.
Yeah.
Keep listening and sharing.
Thanks for watching if you are.
Thank you.
Yeah. See you soon.